Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India NewsHour, India's voice to the world. I'm Tanvi Taneja. Coming up in the next hour. UN Security Council strongly condemns Jammu and Kashmir's Pahalgam terror attack, calls for action against perpetrators and sponsors. Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian and UAE's President Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan call on Prime Minister Narendra Modi to convey condolences on the loss of lives in the barbaric terror attack in Jammu and Kashmir. Vladimir Putin says Russia ready for Ukraine talks without preconditions. Trump-Zelensky meet in Rome on the sidelines of Pope's funeral, hoping for results. Massive explosion rocks Shahid Rajai port in southern Iranian city of Bandar Abbas. 4 killed and over 500 injured. And Pope Francis laid to rest following a 30-minute burial ceremony at Rome's Santa Maria Maggiore Basilica. President Draupadi Murmu pays last respects to His Holiness. In a strong message, the UN Security Council condemned in the strongest terms the terrorist attack in Jammu and Kashmir on April 22nd. The Council stressed that the perpetrators, organizers, financiers and sponsors of this heinous attack must be held accountable and brought to justice. Meanwhile, security forces have intensified operations in Jammu and Kashmir to nab the terrorists. Amid all this, tensions continue to soar between India and Pakistan. A report.
After the dastardly terror attack in Jammu and Kashmir's Pahalgam, global leaders are expressing strong resolve to fight the menace of terror in all its forms and manifestations. The United Nations Security Council strongly condemned the Pahalgam terror attack, calling for accountability and international cooperation to bring the perpetrators to justice. In a statement, Council members expressed their deepest sympathy and condolences to the families of the victims as well as to the governments of India and Nepal. Such acts were called criminal and unjustifiable regardless of their motivation, wherever, whenever, and by whomsoever committed. They stressed that the perpetrators, organizers, the financiers, and sponsors must be held accountable and brought to justice. Security forces have intensified operations in Jammu and Kashmir. The J&K police is working closely with the Army, CRPF, and other agencies who have now launched widespread search operations to dismantle terror networks. On Saturday, 3 more houses of LED terrorists suspected to be involved in the Pahalgam attack were demolished in 3 different districts of South Kashmir. Tensions between India and Pakistan soared after India unleashed a raft of measures against Islamabad, with Pakistan now closing its airspace to Indian airlines and India suspending the 1960 Indus Water Treaty. But what has left everyone appalled is Pakistan Defence Minister Khwaja Asif admitting to Islamabad's history of supporting, training and funding terrorist organization.
Well, we have been doing this dirty work for the United States for about 3 decades, and West, including Britain. That was a mistake.
Another shocking incident was reported on Saturday outside the Pakistan High Commission in London, which saw scenes of Pakistani diplomatic official making threatening gestures towards the Indian protesters across the building. Nonetheless, protests were held in different parts of the world against the Pahalgam attack. In Auckland, a candle march was held to honour the lives lost in the recent terror attack in Kashmir. Even Kashmiris are taking a hard stand against terrorism this time, something which is not seen in such length and gravity in the last 35 years. Kashmiris came out in large numbers to protest against the incident as they felt trapped between tourism and terrorism. Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Omar Abdullah dismissed Pakistan Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif's offer for a neutral probe into the Pahalgam terror attack.
उन्होंने पहले ये तस्लीम ही नहीं किया कि पहलगाम में कुछ हुआ. सबसे पहले क्या कहा उन्होंने? कहा कि ये हिंदुस्तान ने खुद कराया. अब जिन लोगों ने पहले ही हमारे ऊपर ही जो है इल्ज़ाम तलाशी की, अब उसके बाद तो फिर मुश्किल है ना और कुछ कहना.
But the latest challenge that the Shehbaz Sharif government is facing is from within. According to several media reports, Pakistanis have started trolling their own government, with the mounting frustrations spilling onto social media. Pakistanis have started questioning the leadership and are demanding accountability for the ghastly Pahalgam attack. Bureau Report, DD India.
The President of the UAE, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, held a phone call with Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Saturday and expressed his condolences on the loss of lives in the Pahalgam terror attack. India's Ministry of External Affairs, in a post on social media platform X, said, and I quote, President His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan of the UAE called Prime Minister Narendra Modi and conveyed condolences on the loss of lives in the barbaric terror attack on the Indian soil of Jammu and Kashmir. He strongly condemned the attack and expressed full solidarity and support with India. The Prime Minister appreciated his sentiments and words of sympathy and support. Both leaders agreed that terrorism should be rejected in all its forms and manifestations. Prime Minister conveyed India's strong resolve to bring the perpetrators of this heinous crime and their supporters to justice. Further, Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian also called Prime Minister Narendra Modi and conveyed his condolences on the terror attack in Jammu and Kashmir. The Ministry of External Affairs, in a post on X, said, President Masoud Pezeshkian of Iran called Prime Minister Modi and strongly condemned the terror attack in the Indian territory of Jammu and Kashmir and conveyed his condolences for the victims. Both leaders agreed that there could be no justification for such acts of terror, and all those who believe in humanity must stand together in the fight against terrorism. Prime Minister shared the anger and anguish of the people of India and their resolve to deal with those behind the terror attack and their supporters firmly and decisively. Prime Minister also conveyed his condolences for the loss of lives in the explosion in Bandar Abbas today and wished speedy recovery for those injured. Egypt's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Badr Abdelati, also called India's External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, to express solidarity with India in regard to the Pahalgam terror attack. In a post on social media platform X, Dr. Jaishankar appreciated the Egyptian support and solidarity, adding that the two leaders discussed the importance of resolutely countering terrorism. Further, there was a face-off between Indian diaspora groups who gathered to protest Pakistan-backed terrorism in the wake of the Pahalgam terrorist attack and counter-protesters outside the Pakistan High Commission in London. In the videos posted by the Indian community groups from Friday evening's protest on social media, a Pakistan diplomatic official is seen making a threatening, throat-slitting gesture towards the Indian protesters. Listen to the Indian diaspora members who protested outside the Pakistan High Commission in London.
Yesterday in London, in front of the Pakistan Embassy High Commission, we, all the Indian diaspora youth and women, we plan to do a peaceful protest in against of the Pahalgam terrorism attack, which was done towards our Hindu brothers and sisters. And we gathered there around 4:30, and we were doing a peaceful protest. But the people of Pakistan, the diaspora of Pakistan, the colonel of Pakistan, the diplomats of Pakistan, they tried to provoke the Indian protesters. They tried to intimidate the Indian protesters by showing the teacups, by showing placards of Captain Abhinandan. So we gathered there, we stood. Even after that, we didn't move, and we protested even after giving life-threatening deaths threatening to us. So we all those people were there, and this is what the reality of Pakistan is. This is the most shameful act anyone can do. He, being a Pakistani diplomat and an army colonel,
the main issue was created there was when Pakistani diplomat showed the gesture of splitting our head 2-3 times repeatedly, and that threatened us. Their reaction to such a sad incident like this, it's showing that it's pointing out the finger on them that they have done something wrong. As an international student, we stand with our Indian community, and we will always support.
The way in which Pakistani officials were involved into such actions, such gestures, which were threatening and intimidating, as well as it was very interesting to see, outside Pakistan embassy, they had posters hanged which is the first time I'm seeing such type of thing happening. That too in London. So it was quite scary. Even police were a bit siding towards the Pakistan embassy and were trying to intimidate us as well. I would say it is a nonsense thing to do. I mean, we are students and we're living here from last September, and it's first such instance where we never expected such gestures, such intimidation, such threatening actions would have been received to us from the Pakistani officials. It's quite concerning for us. We also have demanded to the Indian High Commission that appropriate action should be taken, because this was especially targeted towards students. Students come here to study, and it was an act from our behalf to show solidarity with the victims of Pahalgam attack, which is such a heinous crime.
Now, keeping the deadline of April 27th in mind, a large number of Pakistani nationals are reaching Attari border to complete their formalities. People are also turning up with their queries, which are being resolved by the authorities there and then. In total, 219 Pakistani nationals and 392 Indian nationals have crossed the Attari-Wagah border by Friday evening. India has revoked all existing visas issued to Pakistanis except long-term visas, diplomatic and official visas with effect from Sunday. All medical visas issued to Pakistani nationals will be valid only till the 29th of this month, and no new visas will be issued in the revoked categories. Meanwhile, Pakistani army troops violated ceasefire again along the line of control in Kashmir for the second consecutive day today. According to the Indian Army, on the intervening night of April 25th and 26th, unprovoked small firing was carried out by multiple Pakistani army posts all across the LOC. The Indian Army retaliated appropriately to firing with small arms. There was no casualties so far in the incident. India has made significant progress in reducing poverty, with extreme poverty measured at $2.15 per day in purchasing power parity (PPP) terms, falling from 16% in 2011-12 to 2.3% in 2022-23, according to a report by the World Bank. The decline lifted 171 million people above the international comparable poverty line. In a brief on poverty and equity, the multilateral lender noted that rural extreme poverty in India fell from 18.4% to 2.8%, while urban extreme poverty dropped from 10.7% to 1.1% during the same period. The rural-urban gap narrowed from 7.7 to 1.7 percentage points, translating to an annual decline of 16% in this rural-urban divide. What was also revealed in the report that India is witnessing a positive trend in job growth. According to the latest World Bank report, since the 2021-22 fiscal year, employment in the country has grown at a faster pace than the working age population. The report said that a significant aspect of this growth is the rising participation of women in the workforce. It noted a sharp fall in urban unemployment. In the first quarter of 2024-25 financial year, urban employment dropped to 6.6%, the lowest level recorded since 2017-18. Another major trend observed is the shift in worker movement. For the first time since 2018-19, more men are migrating from rural areas to cities in search of employment. At the same time, rural women are increasingly taking up jobs in agriculture, indicating a shift in employment patterns across the country. The report also highlighted a rise in self-employment, particularly among rural workers and women. You're with us on DD India NewsHour, still to come on the show. The third round of nuclear talks between Iran and the United States conclude in Oman's Muscat. A US judge arrested by officials amid a dispute with the Trump administration over immigration enforcement. And Canada goes to polls on April 28th with a close race between Prime Minister Mark Carney's ruling Liberals and Pierre Poilievre's opposition Conservatives.
You already dance to Bollywood music at weddings. Now imagine the whole world dancing to our stories too. World Audiovisual and Entertainment Summit Waves is where we make Indian entertainment truly international. तो जल्दी तैयार हो जाइए दुनिया को अपनी धुन पर नचाने के लिए. बस 7 दिन और.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India NewsHour. I am Tanvi Taneja. On Saturday, several containers exploded at a key Iranian port, causing a major blast and fire. At least 4 people were killed and over 500 people injured. State media confirmed the massive explosion at Shahid Rajae, the country's largest commercial port, and reported that authorities are working to extinguish the fire and that evacuation efforts are underway. Located more than 1,000 kilometers south of the capital Tehran, Shahid Rajae is Iran's most advanced container port. The third round of nuclear talks between the United States and Iran were held on Saturday after hours of discussions. The fourth round of talks are likely to be scheduled for next week, according to Oman's foreign minister, provisionally on 3rd of May. Let's tell you how the talks navigated between both the competing sides and what transpired at Saturday's third round of talks.
Indirect talks between Iran and the United States aimed at resolving a decades-long nuclear dispute have ended in Oman, Iranian state media reported, while US President Donald Trump is hopeful in clinching a new pact that would block Iran's path to a nuclear bomb. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi and Trump's Middle East envoy, Steve Witkoff, held talks in Muscat through Omani mediators for around 6 hours, a week after a second round in Rome that both sides described as constructive. Omani Foreign Minister Badr al-Busaidi said talks would continue next week with another high-level meeting provisionally scheduled for May 3rd. Meanwhile, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi expressed satisfaction over the progress and pace of nuclear talks with the US.
The negotiations this time were much more serious than before.
Tehran is willing to negotiate some curbs on its nuclear work in return for the lifting of sanctions. However, ending or surrendering its enriched uranium stockpile are among Iran's non-negotiables. In Tehran, people on the streets expressed optimism that an agreement would come.
Personally, I'm hopeful because the news so far that we have seen in the media was positive, and we would like there to be an agreement. But they are not explaining the details of this agreement. It seems like the media has not able to get the information, but yeah, anyway, people are hopeful and want it to happen.
The discussions are aimed at striking a new deal that would stop Iran from developing nuclear weapons, an objective Tehran denies pursuing in return for relief from crippling sanctions. Bureau Report, DD India.
Now, amid growing hopes for a ceasefire in the Russia-Ukraine conflict, major developments have unfolded on both the military and diplomatic fronts. Ukrainian army denied Russian army's claims of fully liberating Kursk region from Kiev's forces. Elsewhere, US President Donald Trump posted that the two sides are very close to a deal. A report.
A thin ray of hope emerges as Russia signals its willingness to hold peace talks with Ukraine without preconditions. Russian President Vladimir Putin conveyed the message to US envoy Steve Witkoff during a 3-hour meeting in Moscow on Friday. President Donald Trump later posted that the two sides are very close to a deal, with most key issues already agreed upon, calling for an immediate end to the fighting. Russia on Saturday claimed full control over its Kursk region, driving out Ukrainian forces after months of intense fighting. Ukrainian troops had seized territory there in a surprise offensive last August, a move that had deeply embarrassed Moscow.
Today, the last settlement in the Kursk region, the village of Gornal, has been freed from Ukrainian units.
President Vladimir Putin hailed the recapture, calling Ukraine's offensive a complete failure. As diplomatic efforts gathered pace, Putin said clearing Russian soil of Ukrainian forces paves the way for further operations inside Ukraine.
I congratulate all personnel of all military units that took part in the defeat of neo-Nazi formations that invaded Russian territory in the Kursk region. The Kiev regime's adventure has completely failed, and the huge losses suffered by the enemy, including among the most combat-ready, trained and equipped, including with Western models of equipment, forces of the Ukrainian armed forces, and these our assault units, special forces, will certainly be reflected along the entire line of combat contact.
However, Ukraine's military denied Moscow's claims, insisting that its forces were still active in parts of the Kursk region. Ukraine's military said operations continue in select districts. Meanwhile, diplomatic effort gains momentum as US President Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky met briefly at St. Peter's Basilica during Pope Francis's funeral on Saturday. Zelensky called the encounter potentially historic, hopeful that it could lead to a peaceful resolution. Taking to social media platform X, Zelensky wrote, "Good meeting. We discussed a lot one-on-one, hoping for results on everything we covered. Protecting lives of our people, full and unconditional ceasefire, reliable and lasting peace that will prevent another war from breaking out. Very symbolic meeting that has potential to become historic if we achieve joint results. Thank you, POTUS." With both battlefield and diplomatic fronts heating up, the world watches closely. Could peace finally be within reach? Amish Mahajan's report for DD India.
Next news from the US. A Wisconsin judge was arrested by US officials amid a dispute between the Trump administration and local officials over immigration enforcement on Friday. A Wisconsin judge was arrested and charged with aiding a defendant in evading immigration authorities. According to the US Justice Department, Judge Hannah Duggan allegedly obstructed immigration agents by letting defendant Eduardo Flores Rui exit her courtroom through a side door, helping him briefly evade arrest. He was later apprehended outside the courthouse. Meanwhile, following the judge's arrest, Trump stated that the courts are hindering his administration's immigration efforts.
That's a terrible thing. The judge was arrested because he was housing a trendy Iroquois, right? Is that the one you're talking about? It's pretty surprising. It's terrible. We have hundreds of thousands of people that we want to get out of the country, and the courts are holding us back. Some judge that nobody ever heard of is holding us back. It's very dangerous for our country. I mean, you want to see a country that'll have crime? Let that happen, because it's really dangerous for our country, and I can't believe the Supreme Court would let that stand.
Moving northwards, candidates vying to be Canada's next Prime Minister campaigned across the country on Friday, making a final push to sway voters ahead of the April 28th general election. Liberal leader and current Prime Minister Mark Carney visited Algoma Stale in Sault Ste. Marie, a city in Ontario, spotlighting one of the nation's struggling industries. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre rallied support in Saskatoon, a Conservative stronghold. NDP leader Jagmeet Singh campaigned in Toronto, doubling down on his party's promises to protect healthcare and tackle the rising cost of living. The latest polls indicate a tight race between the ruling Liberals and the official opposition, the Conservatives. So there are 28 million registered voters eligible to elect members of parliament in 343 individual constituencies, also known as ridings. Canada has 6 time zones, so voting is staggered to ensure that most people cast their ballots at the same time. Take a look at our next report on Canada's poll process.
Canada goes to polls on April 28, with polls indicating a close race between Prime Minister Mark Carney's ruling Liberals and the official opposition Conservatives of Pierre Poilievre. There are 28 million registered voters eligible to elect members of parliament in 343 individual constituencies, also known as ridings. The number of ridings has been expanded from 338 since the last election in 2021. Now let's understand in detail the election process. Canada is a constitutional monarchy and parliamentary democracy, rooted in the Westminster tradition. The system involves three main components: the Crown, the Senate, and the House of Commons. Responsibilities for lawmaking are shared among federal, provincial, and territorial governments, with judicial oversight ensuring constitutional adherence. The Constitution governs the roles of the Crown as well as the executive and legislative branches. During a federal election, all Canadian citizens who are at least 18 years old on election day can vote in their electoral district. The ceremonial head of state is King Charles III, represented domestically by the Governor-General. The real power, however, lies with the Prime Minister, who leads the government and must have the support of the House of Commons, Canada's lower chamber of Parliament. The House of Commons currently has 343 seats, each one representing a riding or electoral district. Canadians don't vote directly for the Prime Minister, they vote for their local MP. The party that wins the most seats typically forms the government. If they win 172 or more, that's a majority. Anything less, and it's a minority government, requiring cooperation from other parties to pass legislation and survive key votes. Now let's understand who can contest election in Canada. The candidate must be a Canadian citizen and at least 18 years old on election day. The candidate must not be a member of the Legislative Assembly of a province or territory and must not be a chief electoral officer and must not be a judge appointed by the Governor-General or election officer. Also, the candidate must not be imprisoned in a correctional institution. Political parties need to choose candidates to run in an election. As soon as the election writs are issued, each party must decide who will be its candidate for each riding. A candidate can also run for election without being affiliated with a party, as either an independent candidate or a candidate with no affiliation. The right to run in a federal election is protected by the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. In most cases, a clear winner emerges after the ballots are counted, but sometimes the vote count is very close or even tied. If there is a tie or a close vote, the ballots need to be counted again in a judicial recount. A judge presides over these recounts. Bureau Report, DD India.
Still to come on this edition of DD India NewsHour. An expert take on Pakistan's growing isolation in the international community following the Pahalgam terror attack. And India's public service broadcaster Akashvani bagged 6 awards in various categories at the India Audio Summit Awards 2025 in Mumbai. Welcome back. You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Tanvi Taneja. A quick reminder of the headlines we're tracking at this hour. UN Security Council strongly condemns Jammu and Kashmir's Pahalgam terror attack, calls for action against perpetrators and sponsors. Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian and UAE's President Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan call on Prime Minister Narendra Modi to convey condolences on the loss of lives in the barbaric terror attack in Jammu and Kashmir. Vladimir Putin says Russia is ready for Ukraine talks without preconditions. Trump and Zelensky meet in Rome on the sidelines of Pope Francis' funeral, hoping for results. Massive explosion rocks Shahid Raja Airport in southern Iranian city of Bandar Abbas. 4 killed and over 500 injured. And going back to our top story of UNSC condemning the J&K terror attack, and we are joined by Dileep Sinha now, former senior Indian diplomat. Welcome, sir, to DD India NewsHour. Well, the UN Security Council has strongly condemned the Pahalgam terror attack and called for international cooperation to bring the perpetrators to justice and also for the organizers, financiers, sponsors to be brought to justice. So two questions arise. First, how significant is this statement? And second, what concrete action can the United Nations or the international community take in the case of the Pahalgam terror attack?
This is a very significant development. It is very encouraging and very satisfying that the Security Council has condemned this terror attack. I think this is an outcome of two factors. One is the fact that there is no sympathy at all for any kind of terrorism in the world, especially terrorism that is perpetrated by jihadi elements. And there is also the feeling that Pakistan needs to take action to control its jihadi elements, because it is not just towards India that this terrorism spreads, but there are other countries also that have faced the brunt of Pakistani terrorism. So this is extremely significant and reassuring for India that the world community stands with us. As regards the second point that you made about the possibility of the action that the international community can take, the Security Council can certainly impose economic sanctions on Pakistan, as it has done on certain other countries. This would be the first of its kind against Pakistan, but I think we should press for this, because India's own economic engagement with Pakistan is extremely limited, and Pakistan will feel the pinch of sanctions only when the international community imposes it on Pakistan.
Okay, could you tell us something about the downward spiral in Pakistan's economic, political and diplomatic fortunes that has clearly made the Pakistan army resort to failed strategies of the past, including sponsoring terrorism?
Pakistan has been sponsoring terrorism for a very long time, but what has happened in the last decade or so is that a lot of this terrorism is backfiring on Pakistan. For example, the terrorism against Afghanistan through the Taliban that Pakistan was perpetrating is now backfiring, because the Taliban are in power in Afghanistan and their interests are now divergent from those of Pakistan. And the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, which is the Pakistani offshoot of the Taliban, they have taken shelter in Afghanistan. In addition, the Baloch liberation fighters, who are extremely unhappy with the kind of exploitation and repression that is taking place in Balochistan, they are able to find safe havens in Afghanistan, as also in Iran, because of the Pakistani repression. And they are able to, they are also taking action against Pakistan. So Pakistani terrorism is now backfiring on Pakistan, but the Pakistani army is extremely strong and the jihadi elements that it controls are also strong. So Pakistan is able to inflict a lot of damage both on its own people and across the border, whether in Iran or in Afghanistan or in India.
In your opinion, sir, what might be the broad contours of a fitting response by India to the Pahalgam terror attack, and how useful do you see the steps already taken, such as regarding the suspension of the Indus Water Treaty?
Well, I think the suspension of the Indus Waters Treaty is the most important action that we have taken, because this treaty was signed at in a different era for a different purpose. And we undertook obligations to hand over 80% of our power, of our water, to Pakistan at the expense of the interests of Ladakh, Jammu and Kashmir. So it is not just the suspension of the treaty, but I think it is the abrogation of the treaty that India must carry out now, because we need the water for our own purposes today. And there is no reason for us to give this power to Pakistan on a platter and accept Pakistan's blackmail on a number of the projects that we are trying to implement in Jammu and Kashmir for the benefit of the people, even though these projects are in accordance with the Indus Waters Treaty. But Pakistan's obstructionist attitude has led to many of these projects getting delayed many of the dams getting silted, canals getting unusable, all because Pakistan keeps delaying this, taking advantage of the provisions of this Indus Waters Treaty. Last year, India proposed a revision of the treaty to ensure that it fulfilled the purposes for which it was negotiated, but Pakistan rejected that. Now, we must also take advantage of the international atmosphere today, which is against countries taking undue advantage of international treaties. And that is what several countries have woken up to, that some countries take advantage of international treaties to defeat the purposes of those treaties. And that's exactly what Pakistan is doing with the Indus Waters Treaty. The purpose of it was that the two countries would together optimize the benefits that could accrue from proper utilization, from a cooperative utilization of the water. But that Pakistan has never agreed to. It has never discussed cooperative uses of water. Its primary aim has been to obstruct any kind of construction by India on these rivers, to use the waters, even what is legitimately permitted under the treaty for India.
Now, shockingly, Pakistan's Defence Minister Khwaja Asif has admitted to Islamabad's history of supporting, training and funding terrorist organizations. What would have made him make such a shocking, though true statement?
Well, Mr. Khwaja Asif was possibly got caught in a situation where the journalist of Sky News put a blunt question to him, and he didn't find a way of, couldn't think of a way of getting past it. So he blamed the terrorism on the West. Now, everybody knows that Pakistan was carrying out a whole terror operation machinery against the Soviet Union when it invaded Afghanistan. And subsequently, when after 9/11, when American and international forces were in Afghanistan trying to help the development of Afghanistan, then Pakistan harbored terrorists who forced the international forces to withdraw from Afghanistan. Now, all this is known to the international community, so there's no way Pakistan can deny those. So the defense minister, when caught in this interview, he simply said that we were doing the dirty work for the West. So he tried to divert the blame onto the West, little realizing that no matter even a hired gunman is responsible for the action he's taken, and Pakistan must pay for whatever deeds or misdeeds it has done, whether on behalf of some other countries or on its own behalf.
Okay. Now, the Pakistan High Commission in London on on Friday, witnessed scenes of a Pakistani diplomatic official making threatening gestures towards Indian protesters across the building. How do you react to that shocking scene?
This is par for course for Pakistan. Pakistani diplomats behave like this. Many of them are motivated by jihadi ideas. They think this is the best way of attracting international attention. In any case, they don't follow diplomatic norms, whether at home or abroad. We know that in India, many of their officials indulge in activities that go well beyond what a diplomat is supposed to do. In foreign countries, they are involved in funding and liaising with terrorist groups. Again, we have evidence of that. So this is par for course for Pakistani diplomats.
Candlelight vigils have been held in different parts of the world to honor those who lost their lives in the Pahalgam terror attack. Would you agree that the Pahalgam terror attack has once again exposed Pakistan globally as a state sponsor of terrorism?
Yes, it has, and it's very satisfying to see that the world has reacted so strongly and so collectively and so unanimously against this terror attack. It means that there is no sympathy for any kind of terrorism in the world, and Pakistan must realize this, that the days when it could it could make excuses for its terrorism are over, and its bluff has been called.
Would you also agree that the united front that all political parties in India have shown in the wake of the Pahalgam attack is exactly what is needed to empower the government to make the terrorists and their sponsors pay a huge price?
Absolutely. This is also very satisfying to see that the political parties in India have responded to this as they should. There's very strong public anger against Pakistan. But I think we should also ensure that whatever action we take has long-term consequences for Pakistan and not just an immediate hot-blooded reaction, because it is important that whatever we do causes long-term consequences for Pakistan, especially for the ruling regime in Pakistan, that military jihadi complex that controls that country.
Thank you very much, Dilip Sinha ji, for joining us on DD India NewsHour and giving your analysis on the story. Moving on, India's premier radio public broadcaster Akashvani has won a total of 6 awards in various categories at the India Audio Summit and Awards IASA 2025. The third edition of the awards, which recognize excellence in radio and audio content production, was held in Mumbai on Friday. Director General of Akashvani, Dr. Pragya Paliwal Gaur, graced the India Audio Summit and Awards 2025 as the guest of honor. Akashvani News Services Division's popular weekly phone-in show, Public Speak, was recognized as the best produced audio streaming program in the health and fitness category. Other award-winning programs include Chaya Geet, which won in the best late-night show category. Ujale Unki Yadon Ke was named best celebrity show on air, and Safarcast, which clinched the award for best travel show. Akashvani also bagged the award for best interstitial, showcasing its creative excellence in short-form audio content. You're watching DD India NewsHour. Still to come on the show. India's next generation of creative storytellers in the field of animation converge for the Waves Summit in Mumbai. Women Cricket Tri-Series between India, Sri Lanka and South Africa kicks off in Colombo. And World 10,000 meter race in Bengaluru on Sunday. Uganda's Joshua Cheptegei headlines marathon's lineup. Welcome back. You're watching DD India NewsHour. I am Tanvi Taneja. In a major push for India's journey towards becoming a developed nation by 2047, Prime Minister Narendra Modi distributed over 51,000 appointment letters across key ministries, marking a significant step in youth empowerment, employment generation and inclusive growth under Rozgar Mela via video conferencing. Prime Minister Modi said that the inclusivity of the Indian youth is a key factor in their development in the country, highlighting the responsibility of the youth in strengthening the country's economic system, internal security, building modern infrastructure and improving the lives of laborers.
आपके कार्य का मकसद केवल पद प्राप्त करना नहीं है। आपका पद भारत के हर नागरिक की सेवा करने और देश की प्रगति में अपना योगदान देने के लिए है। अभी कुछ दिन पहले सिविल सर्विसेज डे पर मैंने एक मंत्र दिया था और मैंने कहा था कि हम सरकार में जितने भी लोग हैं, हमारे लिए तो एक ही मंत्र सर्वोपरि होना चाहिए और वो मंत्र है नागरिक देवो भव। नागरिक देवो भव। नागरिक की सेवा ही आपके लिए, हम सब के लिए देव पूजा के समान है।
Union Railway Minister Ashwini Vaishnav and Minister of State Dr. Jitendra Singh also distributed appointment letters to the newly recruited youth in New Delhi under the Rozgar Mela. Lauding Prime Minister Modi's leadership, Ashwini Vaishnav said that the newly recruited youths need to work towards the development of the country.
मोदी जी ने 2014 में आने के बाद में पहले देश को एक गंभीर आर्थिक संकट से बाहर निकाला, समाज के कई क्षेत्रों में जो कमजोरियां थी उनको मजबूत किया, कई तरह के रिफॉर्म्स किए। सरकार का जो समाज के प्रति दायित्व है उसमें एक बहुत बड़ा परिवर्तन है।
The Animation Filmmakers Challenge, a key segment of the WAVES 2025 summit, is designed to spotlight and support India's next generation of creative storytellers in the field of animation. Animation filmmaker Shweta Subhash Marathe, based in Mumbai, has been recognized as one of the top 42 finalists in the Animation Filmmakers Challenge at the World Audio Visual and Entertainment Summit.
Shweta Marathe, a talented animation filmmaker and design educator based from Mumbai, Maharashtra, has been announced as one of the shortlisted finalists in the Animation Filmmakers Challenge. Her animated short film, Melting Shame, delves into the profound theme of abuse and the associated stigma, aiming to resonate with teenagers and young adults.
So Melting Shame is an animated short film of 12 minutes and it deals with the shame associated with abuse for teenagers and young adults. And the process, it's a very personal story, and right now we've finished the screenwriting drafts and we have begun with storyboarding it and pitching it to investors, distributors, and beginning into the production of it.
Shweta will pitch Melting Shame to potential co-producers and distributors as she believes the summit, supported by the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting and organized by Dancing Atoms, offers a platform for creators to showcase their work and engage with industry leaders.
I think Waves is an amazing platform for creators like me. It gives us a platform to showcase our work, our projects to investors and distributors, and it's a great way where we can connect with buyers who are actually interested in our projects, and it will help us in development of this whole industry.
This challenge represents India's growing ambition to become a global powerhouse in animation and digital storytelling.
The Waves Animation Filmmakers Competition is a transformative platform empowering Indian storytellers for fostering innovation and global recognition in animation and VFX. With camera person Swapnil, this is Shama Mishra for DD India, Mumbai.
Pope Francis' funeral was held in the Vatican City on Saturday. The funeral was attended by several world leaders, including President Draupadi Murmu. Around 250,000 people lined Rome's streets to see Pope Francis' coffin being transported from the Vatican to his final resting place, Santa Maria Maggiore Basilica. DD India's Jayanti Jha reports from the Vatican City.
Hundreds of thousands of people from across the world, several cardinals and global leaders gathered at St. Peter's Square in Vatican City for the funeral of Pope Francis,
Deus immortalis pastor
who passed away on 21st April. President Draupadi Murmu attended the funeral with an array of world leaders, including American President Donald Trump and French President Emmanuel Macron, amongst many others. Pope Francis, known across the world for his compassion and kindness, was bid farewell by devotees who had thronged the Vatican these last few days to pay their respects one last time, as his body was lying in state at St. Peter's Basilica ahead of his funeral. After the funeral mass, Pope Francis was buried outside the Vatican in St. Mary Major, a basilica in Rome.
Pope Francis's life is a life of service. In his ideas, in his words, in his acts, he embodied a life dedicated to uplifting others. For his funeral, thousands of people from across the world have gathered in Vatican City to offer their condolences and to take forward the life lessons from his life into their own, to help those in need. With camera person Loknath from Rome for DD India, this is Jayanti Jha.
You're watching DD India NewsHour. Time now for some sporting action. With the Women's One-Day International World Cup just 5 months away, India's road to glory kicks off in Sri Lanka with the tri-series against the hosts and South Africa. The 7-match tournament promises intense action featuring new faces and old rivalries. All 7 games will be held in Colombo, with the first match between India and Sri Lanka scheduled on Sunday. India's batting looks formidable, but bowling will be tested as Renuka Singh, Titas Sadhu and Pooja Vastrakar are sidelined with injuries. With the 6-match ODI winning streak and the return of captain Harmanpreet Kaur, India will look to fine-tune their combination ahead of the World Cup. The tournament will take place from 27th April to 11th of May. Each team will play 2 matches against the others and the top 2 teams will compete in the final. The Indian CEO Forum organised a cricket tournament for Indian companies in Sri Lanka. In all, 18 teams competed in the friendly tournament, which featured 6 members a side match. The members of the forum also observed a minute of silence as a mark of respect while observing solidarity with the victims of the deadly attack in Pahalgam. World Championships medalist Lakshya Sen and double Olympic medalist PV Sindhu will lead India's challenge at the Sudirman Cup in Xiamen city of China. India also has HS Pranoy and Anupama Upadhyay to fall back on in men's and women's singles respectively. India will compete without their premier doubles pairs Satvik Sairaj Rankireddy and Chirag Shetty in men's doubles. In their absence, the onus will be on the in-form mixed doubles duo of Tanisha Krasto and Dhruv Kapila to step up and deliver the results. India will open their campaign against Denmark on Sunday. A total of 16 teams have been divided into 4 groups of 4 teams each. Each team will play 3 ties apiece in the group stage, and the top 2 teams from each group will advance to the quarterfinals. Uganda's Joshua Cheptegei, who is the reigning world record holder in both the 5,000-meter and 10,000-meter races, headlines this year's marathon lineup in India's southern city of Bengaluru. The world 10,000-meter race in Bengaluru is all set to kick off on Sunday. The race was first held in 2008. It is a World Athletics Gold Label race. Around 30,000 participants are expected to compete in the 17th edition. Cheptegei will return to compete in Bengaluru after a gap of 11 years. Steeplechasers Avinash Sable, Jyoti Yaraji and Praveen Chittarave have been included in the Indian squad for the Asian Athletics Championships starting from 27th May in South Korea. Jyoti Yaraji will look to defend her 100 meters hurdles title. Tokyo Olympic champion Neeraj Chopra will skip the event due to his scheduled participation at the Doha Diamond League on 16th of May and the Neeraj Chopra Classic event on 24th of May. In his absence, Sachin Yadav and Yashveer Singh will represent India in the men's javelin throw. Indian athletes finished with 27 medals, including 6 golds at the last Asian Athletics Championships held in Bangkok in 2023. So with that, we wind up this edition of DD India NewsHour. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on our different social media handles at DD India Live. And you can also download our DD India mobile app for quick news and updates on the go. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja from all of us here in New Delhi. Thank you for watching. Namaskar.